Grace was the happiest woman in her village the evening she received the news. Her two sons, David and Samuel, were returning, not just for a visit, but to take her with them to Lagos. After years of struggling as a widow, selling vegetables, working on farms, and carrying heavy loads, her sacrifices had finally paid off. 3 days earlier, David had called, his voice brimming with excitement. "Mama, pack your things. We bought a house in Lagos. You'll never suffer again." Tears streamed down Grace's face as she whispered her gratitude, her voice shaky from joy. "My son, Chinik Ga Gozi Gi, may God bless you." That night, unable to keep the joy to herself, she went to see her elder sister, Miriam. The moon was bright, casting silver light over the dusty path as Grace walked the short distance to her sister's home. Her heart was so light, she barely felt the weight of her feet touching the ground. When Miriam opened the door, Grace hugged her quickly. "Sister, I have good news. My sons, they are coming to take me to Lagos. They have bought a house for me." Miriam's eyes narrowed, though she kept a tight smile on her lips. "So, you're leaving me here to suffer while you enjoy life?" she said, her tone sharp. Grace chuckled softly, shaking her head. Sister, no. You can come and visit me. We are family." But Miriam said nothing more, only turned back to her cooking, her face cold. That night, Miriam lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her mud-walled hut. The wind whistled through the thatch roof, but her mind was too full to notice. Envy burned inside her like hot coals. Grace, the younger sister, the one who had once borrowed salt and oil from her, was now about to live in a big city house, with her sons taking care of her. Miriam could not accept it. At midnight, she wrapped a black cloth around her shoulders and slipped quietly into the night. Her bare feet made no sound as she took the winding path into the forest, guided only by the moonlight and the distant hoot of an owl. At the edge of the forest stood a small mud hut, its entrance hung with strings of cowrie shells and feathers. A faint smell of burning herbs drifted into the air. Inside sat Baba Okoro, the feared native doctor, his eyes half hidden in shadow. His deep voice rumbled, "Who disturbs me at this hour?" Miriam stepped forward. "I need a charm," she said. "I want Grace's sons to reject her, to choose me instead." Baba Okoro's lips curled into a thin smile. "Such a request has a price." "I will pay it," Miriam said quickly, her hands clenched. From a small calabash, Baba Okoro scooped a fine black powder into a folded leaf. "Mix this into their food. When they eat, their hearts will turn cold toward her. Lies will become truth in their minds." Miriam gripped the leaf tightly. "It will be done." 3 days later, the rumble of a sleek black SUV announced David and Samuel's arrival. Children ran behind the car, shouting and laughing as it stopped in front of Grace's home. David stepped out first, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a clean white shirt. Samuel followed, his smile wide as he embraced their mother. "Mama!" they chorused, lifting her off the ground in joy. Grace's eyes shone with tears. "My sons, you are home." After they shared a warm meal together, Grace said, "Before you leave, please visit your Aunt Miriam. She will be happy to see you." David and Samuel exchanged quick glances but agreed. Grace, after all, had taught them to respect family. The sun was still high when David and Samuel drove into Miriam's compound. She was already waiting, leaning against her doorway, a fixed smile on her lips. "My fine nephews," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. Come in, come in. I have prepared something special for you." The brothers followed her into the small parlor. The air was thick with the smell of egusi soup and freshly pounded yam. Miriam moved quickly, almost too eagerly, bringing out 2 steaming plates. David smiled. "Auntie, you didn't have to." "Ah, you are my children." "I must," she insisted, setting the plates before them. But hidden in the thick yellow soup was Baba Okoro's black powder, carefully mixed to be invisible. As they ate, Miriam sat nearby, her eyes sharp, her voice low and coaxing. "My sons, I must tell you the truth about your mother. She's not who you think she is. Do you know how your father died?" David and Samuel paused, frowning. Miriam leaned closer. "It was your mother. She killed him with her stubbornness and wicked ways. Even now, she plans to use your money for herself while you suffer. You think she loves you? Oomph. She only loves what you bring her. The charm was already working. Her words slid into their minds like snakes in a tall grass. Doubt began to coil around their thoughts. By the time they left Miriam's house, the warmth they had felt toward Grace had cooled. Grace was waiting outside when the SUV rolled back into the compound. Her face lit up at the sight of her boys, but as they stepped out, something in their eyes made her heart falter. "David, Samuel, is something wrong?" she asked. David's tone was flat. "Mama, we've changed our minds. We won't be taking you with us." It felt as if the ground had vanished beneath her feet. What do you mean?" "My sons, Samuel looked away, unable to meet her gaze. David's jaw was set like stone. "We have our reasons." Grace's knees gave way. She sank to the ground, tears spilling freely. Her voice trembled. After all, after everything. She stood slowly, her body shaking, and without another word, walked to the back of the compound, to the small mound of earth where her late husband, Peter, was buried. Kneeling at his grave, she placed her palms flat against the cool soil. "Peter," she whispered, her voice breaking, "they have turned against me. Speak for me. Fight for me." The wind picked up, rustling the banana leaves above, as if carrying her plea into the unseen. Back in Lagos, Miriam and her son Michael wasted no time. Within days, she had moved into David's home. She controlled who he spoke to, what money he spent, and even what Samuel was told. Samuel, however, felt the poison's grip weakening. The more time passed, the more memories of his mother's kindness fought against Miriam's lies. One night, while alone, he sat staring at his phone, debating whether to call her. But before he could, Miriam's voice drifted from the hallway. She was speaking to Baba Okoro again, her tone urgent. "The younger one is slipping away. Give me something stronger, something to make David hate Samuel." Baba Okoro agreed, promising her a new, more dangerous charm. But fate, as it often does in stories like this, was preparing its own plan. One Friday morning, Samuel awoke to yet another argument between Miriam and David. The house that was once filled with laughter during their childhood visits now felt like a battlefield. Miriam's voice cut through the air like a whip. "David, that boy Samuel will destroy you. You think he loves you? He's jealous." Samuel stood in the hallway, fists clenched. Something deep inside him told him Miriam's words were poison. He remembered his mother's face, the warmth in her eyes when she saw him, the countless nights she stayed awake tending to him when he was sick. By afternoon, he had made up his mind. Without telling David, he packed his bag and bought a bus ticket back to Yumyus. When Grace opened her door and saw him standing there, she gasped, covering her mouth. "Samuel." Samuel dropped his bag, hugging her tightly. "Mama, I am sorry. I was blind." Grace's tears wet his shirt as she held him. "You came back. That is enough for me." Determined to start fresh, Samuel began farming on the piece of land his father had left behind. Each morning he worked under the rising sun, turning the soil with his hoe. It was hard labor, but it gave him peace. One morning, as the blade of his hoe bit into the ground, it struck something hard with a metallic clang. Frowning, Samuel knelt and brushed away the earth. At first, he thought it was a strange rock, but when the sunlight hit it, the dull brown surface glinted, a rich yellow gleam. Gold. His breath caught. Digging carefully, he uncovered more, small nuggets, heavy in his palm. His heart pounded. He had stumbled on a hidden vein of gold beneath the family land. For weeks, Samuel worked in secret, selling just enough to gather a small fortune without drawing attention. Soon, he had enough to buy a large, modern home in Abuja. Samuel told Grace nothing until the house was ready. One bright morning, he handed her a folded paper. Inside was a photograph of the gleaming new house. Grace stared, confused. "What is this?" Samuel smiled. "Your new home, Mama. Pack your things. We are leaving." Her hand shook as she hugged him. "My son, you are your father's child." They traveled to Abuja together, along with Joy, a kind young woman from the village who had stood by Grace when others turned against her. Samuel soon married Joy, and their life blossomed. The air in Abuja felt different, cleaner, freer. Grace walked through her new home, touching the smooth walls, tears streaming down her face. God, you have remembered me. Back in Lagos, Miriam's control over David was slipping. He asked questions she couldn't answer, grew impatient with her constant complaints, and refused to send her more money. Desperate, she returned to Baba Okoro. I want a charm that will remove Samuel permanently. If he dies, Grace will suffer, and David will forget him. Baba Okoro's eyes darkened. This is dangerous. The curse strikes the first male it sees after it is set. If it is not Samuel, I don't care, Miriam snapped. Do it. The night she set the charm, fate intervened. Her son Michael returned home earlier than expected. The moment Miriam stepped outside to bury the cursed object, Michael saw her and called out. It was enough. The charm recognized him as the first male and struck. Before Miriam could scream, Michael collapsed in the road. At the same moment, a speeding car came around the corner, its headlights blinding. In an instant, both mother and son were hit, their bodies flung into the gutter. News of the accident reached David the next morning. As if a veil had been lifted, memories of his mother's love came flooding back. The lies, the coldness, the sudden change, it all made sense now. Miriam's poison was gone. He sat on his bed, shaking, before picking up his phone and calling an elder in the village. Where's my mother? Where's Samuel?
Happy hi bestie. If you enjoyed this story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment where you are watching from. Enjoy!
The elder's voice was calm. They live in Abuja now. I will give you Samuel's number. David sat on the edge of his bed, staring at Samuel's number glowing on his phone screen. His hands trembled as he pressed the green button. The line rang twice before Samuel's voice came through. Hello. David swallowed hard. Brother, it's me. There was a pause. David. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Samuel. I was blind. I let someone fill my head with lies about Mama. I need to see you both. Samuel was silent for a moment, then sighed deeply. We are in Abuja. If you are ready to come with a clean heart, I will welcome you. David closed his eyes, relief washing over him. I'll be there tomorrow. The next morning, David packed a small bag, booked the earliest flight, and set off. Every mile between Lagos and Abuja felt like a lifetime. He replayed his last moments with Grace in the village, the way she had looked at him with hurt in her eyes. By the time he reached Samuel's compound, his knees felt weak. Joy opened the gate. David, wait here. She stepped inside, her voice carrying softly. Moments later, Samuel emerged, followed by Grace. When Grace saw her firstborn, she froze. David fell to his knees before her, tears streaming down his face. Mama, forgive me. I'll let evil separate us. I hurt you. I am ashamed. Grace bent down, cupping his face in her hands. My son, a mother's love never fades. You were lost, but now you are found. They embraced tightly, tears soaking each other's shoulders. Samuel stood nearby, his eyes wet but smiling. David stayed in Abuja for weeks. The brothers worked side by side on Samuel's new business ventures, trading, real estate, and a small gold supply chain. Grace's home was now a place of laughter and shared meals. One evening, while they all sat together under the veranda, David turned to Samuel. There's someone I want to bring back into my life, Sophia. We were engaged before everything. I think I want to make things right. Samuel grinned. Do it. Life is too short to hold back love. Months later, the family gathered again, this time for David's wedding to Sophia. Grace wore a stunning blue lace wrapper, her head tie tall and proud. As David and Sophia exchanged vows, Grace's eyes brimmed with tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude. The village that had once whispered rumors about her now spoke of her strength and blessings. Her story had become a living testament. Evil may scheme, but goodness always triumphs. Blood ties and a mother's love can never truly be broken. Years passed. Abuja became home for Grace, Samuel, and Joy. David and Sophia visited often, bringing their children, who adored their grandmother. But Grace could never forget the countless widows back in Yamuse still struggling under the same weight she once bore: loneliness, poverty, and the cruelty of gossip. One Sunday afternoon, as she sat with her sons under the shade of the mango tree in her compound, she spoke her mind. "My sons, God has blessed us, but blessings are meant to be shared. I want to build something, a place where widows can find hope." Samuel nodded immediately. "Mama, let's do it. We can call it the Peter and Grace Foundation, after you and Papa." David grinned. "I'll fund the first center in the village. We'll make it big enough for training, counseling, and even small loans for business." When the Peter and Grace Foundation opened its first center in Yamuse, it was like a fresh wind sweeping through the village. The same people who had once mocked Grace now came to the opening ceremony, clapping and praising her. Young widows learned tailoring, hairdressing, and farming skills. Older ones found community and small pensions funded by the foundation. Elder Namdi, one of the oldest in the village, took Grace's hand during the event. "You have turned your pain into a river of blessings. This is what greatness looks like." Though years had passed since Miriam's death, the full truth of her actions had never been publicly told. But one day, Baba Okoro, the native doctor, fell gravely ill. Fearing death, he summoned the village elders. Weak and trembling, he confessed everything: the midnight visit, the poison, the charms. The elders were stunned. News spread quickly, and the village buzzed with shock. Grace, however, received the news quietly. "Let the dead rest," she told Samuel. "Forgiveness is heavier than revenge. I carry no hatred in my heart." By the time Grace was 70, the foundation had expanded to 5 states. Samuel's gold business had grown into a major company, and David's real estate empire was thriving. But the greatest joy for Grace was not the wealth. It was seeing her children and grandchildren united, laughing together at the dinner table. Every evening, she would sit on her veranda, watching the sun dip behind the Abuja skyline, and whisper to herself, "Peter, my love, we made it." Our children kept the light burning. The years rolled on, and the Peter and Grace Foundation became a household name across Nigeria. Grace's grandchildren were growing fast, bright-eyed, ambitious, and each carrying a spark of the family's resilience. Samuel's eldest daughter, Adiz, was already making waves as a journalist in Lagos. She had inherited her father's fierce determination and her grandmother's sense of justice. David's son, Chaik, was studying architecture in London, but always spoke of returning to Nigeria to build something meaningful. At every family gathering, Grace would sit at the head of the table, watching them banter and plan their futures, her heart swelling with pride.
Hi bestie, kunyafu hivi kumeshawa uruang. If you enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for part 2. Comment where you are watching from and I will reply with my favorite emoji. Thank you.